Hello and welcome to another episode of the Confident Musician Show. You are tuning into 5 pro tips on how to detach from negative outcomes. I am your host, Brett Cusack, aka Megalove, and I am a musician, songwriter, music educator, and life and business coach. And at The Confident Musician, we help musicians to overcome self-doubt and overwhelm and create more confidence than you ever thought possible so you can make music, make a difference, and share your unique talent with the world. If you like something in this video or you find something useful or valuable, please let us know in the comments because your feedback is super important to us. And if you know somebody else who finds it very hard to detach from negative outcomes, please tag them in this video or send it to them in a DM. Alrighty, let's jump in. 5 pro tips on how to detach from negative outcomes. And I'm gonna say perceived negative outcomes at the outset of this. So tip number 1 is to write down anything that you perceive as being a negative outcome. And you can include both events that have already occurred, or you can include things that are future imagined. Just imagine the word fear being a future emotion appearing real. Both of these situations are going to inhibit you from moving forward because your brain's primary purpose is to keep you safe. And if there has been a strategy that you have used or you perceive will work for you to keep you safe and conserve calories, your brain will be running the show in order to make sure that that happens. So tip number 1 is to write everything down and get it out of your head. Tip number 2 is to release and appreciate any shame and guilt of the past and future imagined nightmares by balancing your emotions. So what we need to do here is create a list, potentially a very long list, and this is a thinking and feeling process of benefits, gains, and positives as a result of these negative events, both the past and anything that you might imagine in the future. Because if you've got some baggage from the past that you perceive someone has lost more than gained, you are more than likely not going to move forward because you're going to perceive that you may do that same thing again. And it could be you that lost as well. So if you list any shame and guilt by not listing your shame and guilt. We've already done that in tip 1. Tip 2 is to start listing benefits. What characteristics and traits have you had to summon? What have you had to learn? What path did these things set you on in order to become the person that you are today? And when you've actually listed enough benefits, gains, and positives to all of these things, you start to actually go, I start to see things now in a more logical, balanced way, and therefore you're more likely to move forward. So aim for 20 plus, and it may be as many as 50. It all depends on finding those series of things that actually make you go, oh, wow, I'm so glad that happened to me, and you wouldn't want to change it. Tip number 3 is for any past events, you may also want to resolve the issue by finding a win-win scenario to resolve any conflicts from the past. So first of all, before we even entertain this, make sure that this strategy is going to be the best thing for both parties. Because sometimes people are trying to fix something from their past where the other person doesn't need to be put back in your space again. So you want to make sure that you're doing this in the best interest for yourself and for the other person, and they're also willing and able to find a win-win scenario. So it's never about trying to solve our problem when the other person doesn't want to have to deal with that situation. So you've got to make sure it's a win-win for both parties. So an example of that might be, a good example is I had a instrument made and I didn't realize how much it was going to cost, and I ended up saying yes, I'll pay for that, and then I didn't pay for it for many years, and then I ended up going, hang on a minute, I got to resolve this conflict. So I ended up ringing that person. This doesn't necessarily paint me in the right light, but I wanted to share this story because it's a good example. And so I rang that person up and I said, hey, can I just give you some money for this thing? I think it was this amount. And he said, no worries, just drop off the cash. And we were actually able to connect over that situation. I got to apologize and say, look, I'm sorry this didn't happen. I wasn't in a position. I didn't realize that was the situation. So he got to learn what was happening for me as well. And then the cool, beautiful thing about resolving that conflict was, I think it was $300 or something. And then I got a gig through a referral from that same guy that week for the same amount of money. So I gave away this $300 to resolve some past conflict that I had, and probably they had it as well, resolved that. They actually appreciated me, referred me for a gig, and then I made back the exact same money that I paid back. So this is just a really beautiful story to, resolve these conflicts if you can. Tip number 4 is for any future events, create contingency plans for any outcomes that so you're well prepared. So anything that you perceive is going to go wrong, find a way to resolve that conflict or problem or situation in advance so you actually have a solution. So if you're, worried about people saying bad things about you at a gig, maybe go through what all these people could say about you and how you can then, what are all the benefits of people saying that, or how you can turn that around into something positive. Someone might say, hey, your music's not very good. And you might say, well, it's not for you. And you can actually turn that around and actually when you start to defend yourself, other people come in and support you. So finding contingency plans for anything that you perceive in the future is only going to have negatives. So therefore you can actually become more emotionally stable so that when you're dealing with those things, you've already figured out what the solution is to those problems. Tip number 5 is to get a coach or mentor to guide and inspire you along the journey and help speed up the process. And that is why I've created all of my latest courses, training, and events, which you can get on the link tree below this video in the description. And in there's a free event on how to write songs that stand out without self-doubt. There is how to master time management without overwhelm. There is my latest course, which is called Confidence and Happiness Secrets, which is at the moment less than the cost of a packet of strings. I don't know how long it's going to be at that price point for, so make sure you grab a ticket or access to that course as soon as possible. Let's recap our 5 pro tips. Number 1 is to write down all the perceived negative outcomes and get them all out of your head. Because when you're trying to solve the problem inside the thing that's making the problem, sometimes it can be very difficult because we end up thinking and feeling and thinking and feeling, and we end up in a spiral back on the couch with a pizza and a beer going, oh, I'm glad I avoided that situation. And your brain rewards you with some happy chemicals. Thank you, brain. Okay, so write down all the perceived negatives and then include both events from the past and anything that you imagine in the future as being negative. Both are going to inhibit your progress moving forward. Tip number 2 is to release and appreciate shame and guilt of the past and future imagined nightmares by balancing your emotions. So create a list, potentially a very long list of benefits, gains, and positives as a result of those negative events happening, whether they've happened in the past or in the future. What characteristics and strengths, how is this helping you stand up and lead? What is this teaching you that you desperately need to learn? Are all ways to answer that question in a couple of different ways. Tip number 3 is for any past events, you may also want to resolve the issue by means of finding a way to resolve that conflict. So it has to be a win-win scenario for both parties. And if it is possible. So make sure that this action is also in the best interest of both parties. We don't want to try and resolve our problem when somebody else is just getting traumatized as a result of that. So sometimes we need to deal with it inside of us, and sometimes there's an opportunity to do it on the outside, and just make sure that that person is somebody that you want to move forward in your life with. Tip number 4, for any future events, create contingency plans for any outcomes so you are well prepared. And tip number 5 is to get a coach or mentor to guide and inspire you and help speed up the process. It is going to cost you some cash to invest in working with me, but if you do feel like I'm the right person for you, you can book a quick 15-minute call with me on the link in the description for this video. It is going to cost some money to invest in yourself by working with me, and at the end of the day, you can always make more money, but you cannot make more time. So I have so many clients who say, Brett, I wish I did this sooner. So if you're the type of person who thinks that they're ready, please book a call and we can get the conversation started. I'm going to ask you some questions about what you would love to achieve in the next 6 to 12 months. What is your current situation? Where are you currently at? What are the problems you're facing? And then if I feel like we're going to be the right fit to work together, then I can present you with an offer. And if you would like to work together with me, you can take me up on that. If not, that is cool too. But at least we had the conversation to figure out whether we're going to be the right fit. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you found something useful, valuable, or interesting, you can like and subscribe or let us know in the comments. Your feedback is super helpful. And if you know somebody else who finds it very hard to detach from negative outcomes, please flick this video across to them in a DM or tag them in this video with love. Until next time, make music, make a difference, and I'll see you on the next one. Catch you later. Yeah, yeah.